You probably think the big milestone in investing is when you finally hit 100K. But the truth is, it is not the 100K that changes everything. It is the very first $1,000 you invest. That first chunk of money is way more important than the next 100 grand. And if you don't understand why, you'll always feel like you're chasing wealth instead of building it. So in this video, we are going to break down exactly why your first $1,000 invested matters more than the next $100,000. Let's get right into it. Here's the first reason your first $1,000 is the most powerful money you'll ever invest. It proves you are in the game. You see, most people never actually make it past this step. They think that they'll start once they have more money. But here's the brutal reality. If you cannot commit to putting away $1,000, you are not magically going to become disciplined with 10K or 100K. That first $1,000 isn't about the size. It is about what it represents. That you are officially an investor. You have crossed the line from thinking about money to building wealth. And trust me, that switch is everything. And here's the kicker. Once you do it once, you can repeat it forever. The second reason your first $1,000 matters more than the next 100K, it builds the habit. Your first $1,000 is a proof that you can cut expenses, automate transfers, and increase income enough to save and invest. Once you prove that, it's like cracking the code. You realize, oh, I can do this again and again and again. And suddenly, the idea of building 100K doesn't feel impossible. It feels inevitable. The money matters, yes, but the habit matters more. Because you can lose money and rebuild it. But once you have built the system, that stays with you for life. The third reason, time loves small numbers. Let me explain. People underestimate the insane power of compounding. That $1,000 you put in the beginning, it has the most years to grow. And growth isn't linear, it is exponential. Let's play with the numbers for a second. If you invest $1,000 at a 10% return and never touch it, in 40 years, it will be worth $45,000. That is just from one single grand, quietly multiplying while you live your life. Now, here's the twist. Someone who invests 100K but waits 20 years before starting. At the same 10% returns, they'll end up with about $672,000. Not bad, right? But guess what? If you kept adding little amounts consistently after that first $1,000, you could actually surpass them. We will do the comparison a little bit later, so make sure to stick around. This is the secret people don't get. Compounding isn't about the biggest amount, it is about the earliest amount. So your first $1,000 is like planting the first seed. It doesn't look like much now, but in time, it can turn into a forest. And here's the fourth reason that your first $1,000 is everything. It teaches you emotions. We like to think investing is all about numbers, charts, and calculators, but in reality, it is about psychology. When you invest your first $1,000, you experience something you cannot get from reading books or watching YouTube videos. You feel the high when the market goes up. You feel the gut punch when it drops. That emotional roller coaster is priceless education. In my own experience, some days I would lose over $10,000 in investment or gain just $140. But I know historically the investment will always go up in the long run. This is why I don't freak out when I see the big red negative number when I open my investment app. Because here's the truth, if you cannot stomach losing $100, you will never survive the swings of $100,000. So that first $1,000, it is like training wheels. It forces you to build emotional resilience with small amounts before the stakes get higher. And that resilience, that ability to stay calm and stick to the plan, is exactly what separates broke investor from wealthy ones. Fifth reason, the first $1,000 is where your identity shifts. When you put your first $1,000 into the market, you stop being someone who wants to invest, and you become an investor. That may sound just like a word, but identity drives behavior. If you identify as someone who's bad with money, your brain will find ways to sabotage you. But when you start telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who invests, your decisions change. Suddenly, blowing money on random Amazon orders doesn't feel as good because it doesn't align with your new identity. Now, let's talk about leverage. And this is the reason number 6. Your first $1,000 isn't just money sitting there. It is proof to yourself that you can create more money from money. That's a powerful shift. Before you invest, money feels like something that only leaves your pocket. Rent, bills, groceries, it's all expenses. Once you invest that $1,000 and you see it in dividends, interest, and growth, you'll realize that your money can work harder than you could ever do. You'll stop asking, how can I spend this? And you'll start asking, how can I grow this? And it all starts with the first $1,000. In the past few years, I have stopped buying more stuff, and I have started thinking, how am I going to grow my investment portfolio to $3.6 million so I can retire comfortably? The 7th reason is that confidence compounds faster than money. Here's the secret. The hardest part about wealth isn't the math. It is the belief. Most people secretly don't believe they can ever be rich. That's why they waste money, because deep down, they don't think their future is worth investing in. But once you invest your first $1,000, something changes. You realize, wait, I can do this. And I'm not being excluded from the world. And it's not just the rich people that can invest, I can too. That confidence multiplies. It makes you want to learn more, it makes you want to contribute more, and that confidence attracts opportunities. So if you want to change your financial future, don't wait until you have $100,000. Build the confidence with $1,000. Now let's compare the investment portfolio of the 2 scenarios that we talked about earlier. Person A starts with just $1,000 today. Nothing flashy, but they add $250 a month every month for the next 40 years. They get about a 10% average return, which is historically realistic for the stock market. By the end of 40 years, their money has quietly grown into about $1.4 million. Yeah, $1 million portfolio from starting with just $1,000 and building a habit. And now let's look at the person B. They say, I'll wait until I really have the money. They don't invest at all for the first 20 years. And finally, they have saved up $100,000 and they started investing. They also get a 10% returns and they invest for 20 years. By the end, they'll have around $673,000. And that's why your first $1,000 invested matters more than the next $100,000. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop telling yourself you invest once things calm down or once you are making more money. Put your $1,000 in the market now, because what that $1,000 does for your mindset, your habits, your identity, and your future wealth is worth more than any 6-figure paycheck. I promise. Don't underestimate the tiny start. That's the seed of everything. And if you are fired up by this, go check out my video on how I would invest my first $1,000. I'll leave the link at the end of the video, and I'll also put it in the description box. If you have found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.